Okay, this is for all the Tier 3 guys. That low E string, when I fretted the 7th fret and played the corresponding 19th fret octave, that octave was 18 cents sharp. So we're going to move that back as far as we can. Hopefully we're going to squeeze what we need out of that saddle to get those two notes to line up. The A string was 12 cents sharp. The D was 5 cents sharp, the G was 3 cents sharp, the B was 8 cents sharp, and the high E was 6 cents sharp. So I'm going to reshape that saddle and move all of those focal points back, and we'll be right back and we'll check again. After making those adjustments, the first adjustments I've made on the saddle, we went from 18 sharp to 5. And there's still room to come down on that low E. So I think between lowering the low E and bringing it right to the outside extremity of that saddle, we might be able to squeak that 5 cents out of there. The A string, same thing. There's a little bit left on that saddle on the back side, and it has room to come down. So between dropping it lower and bringing it back, we may be able to, we'll see how close we get to that 7. The D string, lots of room to move back, and it can also come down. I'm not worried about that one. That'll definitely line up. The B string, we're about halfway across the saddle, and I don't want to drop it down. I've got this sort of level line here, which is my own calligraphy, just to sort of indicate that I really don't want to lower it if I can help it. Not much anyway, but there is quite a bit of saddle there, so I may be able to squeeze that out. It remains to be seen. I'll move it right to the back edge and see what happens. The high E is only 3 cents sharp now from 6, and it has room to go back. So, next round. Oh man, you got to check this out. So when we started down this road, that high B was 18 cents sharp. You can see I've moved it right to the outside edge of the saddle, and I have dropped it down in height. So here's where we are now. A string, D string, and here is our G. Here's our B. Now I did end up scraping that with a razor blade. It's our high E. Okay, we have arrived. Now we turn our attention to the compensated nut. So just to reiterate, when we started, these were the values when we started all the way across. After that first adjustment, these were the values all the way across. After lowering the low E string and moving it right to the outside extremity, well, it lined up perfect as you saw. A string, same thing. D string was 3 cents sharp, and I scraped at that with a razor blade a little bit, brought it back, it's perfect. The G was good right where it was. The B was 6 cents sharp. Well, I scraped that to the back edge, and it's perfect now too. Not quite to the back edge, but almost. Same with the high E. Didn't quite go all the way back, but very close to the back edge. So now the 7th fret fretted note and the 19th fretted note on each string all the way across are perfectly in tune. Now we go to the compensated nut. We are just about to start on the compensated nut, so when I fret the 12th fret note and I play the open string, the low E and the high E are perfectly in tune. The A is 3 cents flat, D is 4 cents flat, 5 cents flat on the G, and 3 cents flat on the B. I'll do my first round attempt on that compensated nut blank, and we'll come back again. Here is the final tally. This is not A440. It's A432. We'll start with low E and its octave. 12th fret and 1st fret. Here's our A string. 12th fret. D string. 12th fret, open, and 1st fret. 3rd string, 7th fret, its octave, 12th fret, open, and 1st fret. Okay, 2nd string, 7th, and its octave, 12th fret, open, and fretted. So these are the final values on that saddle. These are 12 to 53 strings of concert pitch. I installed a set of ebony bridge pins with the pearl dot to replace the plastic ones, I figured. And as you've seen in so many other videos, this is my take on that input jack slash strap button. One thing about those input jacks that act as strap buttons is they're guaranteed to loosen off. You can put money on it. So the idea here is the customer actually puts her strap on the strap button. Cord goes up and over, then it plugs in to the input jack so that if you step on the cord or someone else steps on your cord, the input jack never gets the hit. And I put a slip of leather over the outside cuff of that input jack and then gently grabbed it with vice grips and tightened it. It will never loosen up. Okay, let's have a look at that nut. And there's the final values on the compensated nut. Again, 12 to 53 concert pitch. And here's the look at the other side. The customer did have a string attached to the guitar strap, like hundreds of others in the past. But I suggested we install a strap button, and this is the most strategic place. That strap button is fastened to the head block of the guitar, and that is the most solid place on an acoustic guitar, is that intersection of neck to body joint, head block, fingerboard overlay, top, back, sides. They all converge at that point. You could not get a more solid location for a strap button. This is one of the weirdest readouts of values that I've seen ever. So we're talking about the fretted 7th fret note and its corresponding octave. The low E is 8 cents sharp. The A was perfectly in tune. D, 6 cents flat. G, 3 cents flat. B, 13 cents flat. And the high E, 6 cents flat. So let's have a look at the saddle. So there's the saddle. You can see like the 4 bass strings are pretty well right to the leading edge. And out of those 4 strings, the low E's got to come back at 8 cents, which is not a problem within the confines of the original bridge slot. The A is good, just squeaked by. It can't go any more forward, obviously. But it's okay, it's in tune. But the D and the G are 6 cents and 3 cents flat, respectively. So they've got to be cantilevered. The B string is 13 cents flat, but it is right at the back edge, so it may fall within the confines of the original bridge slot, or maybe not. We'll see. Of course, the first string is right at the very edge, leading edge, so obviously we got to make a cantilevered saddle. We'll get started on that, but and a little bit longer than we want. Rob had recently asked, why is there a space there? And the reason for that is there's a pickup underneath there. For anyone who has ever installed pickups in an acoustic guitar, they know how critical it is to get 100% contact all the way across all 6 strings. Now that space I have there is more than we need, so I am going to bring that down a little bit. I'll make sure that we get a good square cut on that, sort of check it as I go. We're back over to the stationary disc sander with the air switch. So we're going to bring that down just a little tiny bit, and I want to check for squareness. Now, because the strings are actually going to cantilever forward of the original slot, it's another reason to get this in perfectly square. I'll just check that front edge. Yeah, we still got a little bit more than we need. We're going to lower that a little bit more. Okay, so these are the values. The low E, I'm bringing it back towards the back of the saddle. The A is almost right on the leading edge. I'm kind of erring on the side of caution here and obviously leaving a little bit more than I need. I can always cut it back, but I can't add it on. This was 6 cents flat, so I've moved it to the front of that cantilevered section of the compensated blank. This is 3 cents flat, the G string, so I'm kind of pulling that back a little bit. This was 13 cents flat, so we're going to start here and see where we end up. The first string was 6 cents flat, so I'm back to the radius disc sander conversion kit for the drill press, and I'm going to cut back to this sort of elliptical line. Then we're going to come back and we're going to put the strings back on and tune it up. Okay, so this is our second time through, and as I'd mentioned, I'm erring on the side of caution. You can see that the low E string now is 18 cents sharp, and my calligraphy, once again, when I put that little plus, double plus sign and an arrow, it basically indicates that this string can come way down. So the double action of moving the string down and moving the focal point back will take care of that 18 cents of sharpness. A string, which was perfectly in tune before, is now 15 cents sharp, and it can also come down quite a bit. I'll bring you in close to the saddle in a second to show you. The D string, 3 cents sharp, it was 6 cents flat. So that's not that far off. We just got to come back a little bit. The G, which was 3 cents flat, is now 8 cents sharp, so it's got to come back a little, obviously a little bit further than the D string. The G, which was 13 cents flat, is now 5 cents sharp. So we're going to work that back to the line. And look at this, the high E, which was 6 cents flat, is now 1 cent sharp. So I think the motion of just lowering that string is going to take care of that 1 cent of sharpness. Okay, let's have a closer look at the saddle. So based on those values we just discussed, I have marked a line to where I'm going to bring the focal point back. I have marked that line all the way across to where we're going to bring that, to where we're going to adjust that focal point next. Well, this is where we are now. The high E and B string are perfectly in tune. The rest of them are sharp in varying degrees all the way across. Again, I'll bring you into the saddle. Now the low E string can still come down quite a bit, and that's going to get rid of a lot of that sharpness, 8-cent sharp, because we're almost at the back of the saddle, so most of it needs to come from lowering the string. So we'll go back to the drill press disc sander in a second and lower this E string even further to get rid of that sharpness. The A, you got to remember that because of the ramp in the saddle, as I bring it back, it does drop down. So you can see I've got these 4 strings that are sharp. They can all be actually lowered, which is going to reduce some of the sharpness. Now we do need to respect the radius on the tip of the crown so we get a match to the fingerboard radius, which we have. So I've marked in pencil where I'm going to cut that line back to, and we are now back to the drill press radius disc sander. And this is the final call on the Gibson J150. There's our cantilevered compensated bridge saddle and the new replacement ebony pins with a pearl dot. This is the final call on the compensated nut. Now this is 13 to 56 at concert pitch.